Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to let you know that we've got Joe, our favourite astrologer, with us again today. And we've just had a little chat before we went live. And some of the subjects that we're hoping to cover today are we in the age of Aquarius? We're going to be looking at Pluto moving into the sign of Aquarius. It's just moved out of Capricorn. Going to look around the inauguration of 2025 and lots of other things. I'm sure we're going to cover lots of things, Joe. So, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay, Michelle. It's been a weird time. I'm not going to lie to you. It's very strange. The heavy energy at times is so draining. I have to go lay down. And then there are days where everything is smooth sailing. So it's quite the ride, with this heavy energy. And astrologically, we've got Mercury retrograde right now. We've got Mars slowing down to go retrograde as well on December the 6th. So that tends to slow us down a little bit more as well. So the astrology is a wonderful tool for, kind of understanding some of the energy cycles that are happening. But other than that, I'm okay. I am, doing the best I can.
It's interesting that you talk about Mercury retrograde because as soon as that hit, as usual, I've had lots of problems with my laptop, my email. I can't get into any of the apps. Suddenly,
Hmm.
every app
Hmm.
forgets your password.
Yeah.
And the other interesting thing I've been noticing is as those things slow down,
Hmm.
we seem to still be having time going very fast, which is a bit of a
Yeah.
paradox.
Hmm.
Because as I was saying to you before we went live, the time just flies by each day. I don't get anything, don't get half of the things done that I want to do. And yet, even though with these planets going backwards, I don't understand how the time is still going so quickly.
Well, it's really just our perception of time that is shifting. And so, have you noticed that we seem a little more foggier than normal? Our memories are not as good. It's really a perception thing because this physical suit is just perceiving things as it could, as it senses them. Okay, and the suit is very limited to what it can do. But as the frequencies change, as the vibration keeps getting higher or being distorted in some way, the suit is trying to acclimate to the time, because time is really kind of an illusion in a sense. It's just moving. It's always moving. And it's just us that, we slow down enough to perceive it, to sense it in our own body, in our own sort of the way our bodies work. And so it's really us that's changing as the frequencies increase. And so it seems like time is flying by because we're not focusing on the little details anymore. We're not obsessed about, oh, I got to get this done today. We're looking at the world in a different way, and our bodies are changing. They absolutely are changing. I know I can speak for myself. My body has changed. My eating habits have changed. My sleeping habits have changed, and I'm not the only one. I'm sure you're going through it too, Michelle. Everyone has. And that is part of this evolution that's taking place within us. And
Yeah.
so perceiving time is going to be completely different. It may, we may get things done in a week, instead of a couple of days, or sometimes faster because we're on a roll and we've locked out time as we know it, and we're just doing what we're doing. Like last night, I was literally locked onto my computer doing the astrology and all this for hours, and it felt like just a few minutes. You see, so it was incredible to experience this. But again, it was my focus, my energy, being in the moment, and time flies when you're in the moment as well, too. Let's not forget that. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I find when you stay in the now, which I've learned to
Hmm.
do very well, probably in the last, I would say 20 years now, that I'd learned that if something's not flowing, then don't try to force it, just try to come back into the flow of what the universe wants you to do. Because if you try to force anything, you just end up repeating it because the universe didn't want it to go that way today, or it wasn't the right time. And so
Sure.
staying in the moment is like you said, a very valuable tool that we need to learn. Obviously, I
Hmm.
used to teach meditation for many years, so just staying in sort of mindfulness and keeping your mind on what you're doing right now, the next thing, rather than worrying about how you're going to do the full day. Um,
Right.
but time is like you said, goes very fast also when you're enjoying what you're doing, when you're in your things that you really like your passion, when you're doing your
Hmm.
passion things,
Hmm.
the time goes very fast. But Joe, I've just put a video out this week about the inauguration. And one of the things that was coming out very strong was how we're now
Hmm.
really moving into this period of time where, Musk and Trump and the Department of Government Efficiency and things like that are now really coming to the forefront. And so these things that we've been talking about for a number of years, to do with devolution of governance, devolved voting, that sort of thing,
Hmm.
devolving down to we the people, it's now starting to take some sort of form.
Sure.
And one of the other things they said to me was that there's going to be all this kind of new technology, which is going to be all set up just for that focus so that
Hmm.
we can have this devolved setup in our lives.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
I was wondering, going back to our the introduction, is this us moving in? Is this the definition of us moving in to the age of Aquarius? Because I understand that the age of Aquarius is about breaking out of old structures and using technological advances to aid us in our sort of day-to-day lives. But is that what it is, Joe?
Yes, but the problem is because the calendar has been changed so many times by that wonderful institution called the Vatican and the Church, we're not sure exactly when the age of Aquarius officially started. I mean, we could track it, we have science, all that stuff. But technically, some say it's a couple of hundred years away. But we as astrologers could see that we're being heavily influenced by Aquarius right now. Aquarius is the sign associated with humanity. It is a sign associated with innovation, technology, advancements in the community, the collective community. And that's what appears to be happening over the last few years because we've had Jupiter and we had Saturn in Aquarius, and prior to that, we had Neptune in Aquarius, and now we have Pluto in Aquarius. So the influence of Aquarius has been very strong in the last 10, 15 years, 20 years. Let's go back that far. So are we technically in the age of Aquarius? We're at the beginning stages of it. Let's put it that way, Michelle. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll be completely submerged in Aquarius, probably for, another couple of hundred years. But technically, with Pluto in Aquarius, that is going to feel like the age of Aquarius because believe me when I tell you, and you already, and the listeners, I'm sure already know, everything we think we know and things related to government and control systems and technology and information and extraterrestrials, everything under the age of Aquarius will be turned upside down on
Mm,
its head because that's what Aquarius does. The energy of Aquarius, which is Uranus, Uranus is influenced, by Aquarius. They're one and the same. It is about breaking patterns. It is about freeing ourselves from the limitations that society has put upon us, that our belief systems have put upon us. But it has a surprising and shocking way of doing it. It likes to shock you and surprise you. And I've always remembered this. It's like looking at somebody with purple hair or green hair or with tons of tattoos and nose earrings and all that. It's that type of energy. It's out of the ordinary. I don't want to fit in. I'm going to be my own individual. That's the age of Aquarius. And we see that now in society, that's being slowly pushed into the subconscious of the kids, with thinking that there are 57 biological genders. I mean, it's insane. So, but it seems insane when you're in the age of Aquarius, okay? Because, like I said, we're at the beginning stages of it. So things are going to be turned upside down completely. You
So
know?
is Aquarius a rebellion or is it an
Yes.
innovation?
It's a rebellion. It's a rebelling against the norms. It is,
Right.
doing things against the way it was before. If Capricorn, which is the sign before, is about tradition and structure and foundation, Aquarius comes in and says, nope, we're not going to do that anymore. Nope, we're not going to have those restrictions anymore. Nope, we're not going to listen to you. Everything about Aquarius energy, or Uranus, one and the same, is about rebelling against or creating and being original and innovative in your own unique way, because the cycle has to happen in order to experience something new. Can you imagine if we had the same traditional things over and over and over again, how boring and mundane it would be,
So
you
it
know?
sounds like we might, if you're rebelling to that extent, like you're suggesting, sounds like we might be going through quite a lot of battles, maybe some wars or something. Would you say it's that, or would you say it's
Uh,
more a rebellion of the mind and the
it's a
conscious?
rebellion. It's a rebellion of the mind and the consciousness.
Mm,
And so, wars, that's always a possibility. And I talk about this. I'm going to be talking about this in my 2025 video,
mm,
because the energy is reflective of the past. This is the beauty of astrology. We could see the trends that occurred before. And we're not going to get too heavy into that right now, but it is it is basically our consciousness. Now, of course, it's being guided by something beyond our comprehension right now, to the average person, whether we're talking about extraterrestrials, whether we're talking about a powerful AI that's influencing humanity, I think being used as well. But it's about awareness. It's
mm,
consciousness just means awareness.
mm.
So it's looking at things from a different perspective, viewing them in a different way. And that's what the age of Aquarius is all about. It's going to get strange. I mean, could you imagine if a couple of spaceships just, landed in a lawn, on the front lawn somewhere, and out came so many different looking beings? That's the kind of energy that Aquarius is associated. Things we've never seen before. And so that's what Aquarius energy is about, and we're just entering it right now because of Pluto in Aquarius. But wait until Uranus goes into Gemini, and that's in July of next year. It really gets more interesting, And again, we'll talk about that in another video. But we technically are at the beginning stages of the age of Aquarius as we know it right now.
It's
You know.
interesting because around the time of the flooding in North Carolina, which I think was around mid-October,
Mm-hmm.
I started to get very strong connection again to the Galactic Federation. So I had that very strongly back at the beginning of COVID. So
Mm-hmm.
when that all first started,
Mm-hmm.
my initial reaction was something's not right with this story. And within about 48 hours of me thinking that, I had the Galactic Federation come down in my town and put a ship over every house of the students that I had been teaching. And I started to see them connecting the grid work.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the funny things was that because I'd been teaching students on how to open their portal in their house, how to
Mm-hmm.
open it to go on to the ascension journey, what I what I found funny was that I knew they'd all been doing their homework because they all now had a ship over their house. Um, and then this, when I say a ship over their house, what I'm explaining is that everybody else couldn't see those ships, but that because the ships are in the ethereal, so it's like a psychic vision that I was having of all the ships coming down. And then we've moved forward now nearly 4 years, and then we had the North Carolina flooding and things, and some very strange energies in October, like we were discussing before. And suddenly, I saw the ships all come down again. And it was a very significant shift, and they've been talking to me ever since. And so it's interesting that you're saying that we've now had this change of we're moving Pluto into Aquarius. I wonder if that's why they've made contact with me again, because of this shift in the astrology. And so now they're wanting to talk to me more from the Galactic Federation point of view.
Well, yes, with the shift in planetary energy, it raises the vibration, so to speak. It changes the frequency, and Aquarius is associated with extraterrestrials. It's associated with vibration and energy. And so, what these higher realms of beings are higher consciousness in a form which, when they look down, they could see who's vibrating at what level, and they could see that this soul or this energy needs to be protected or influenced in some way because they'll make a greater difference somewhere down the line. And that's what we're doing right here, you and I and the millions of others that are so-called light workers. We're just carrying a different frequency, an energy, an awareness, if you will. And we're supposed to, at this time, try and help humanity understand what we're going into. That's why we're here, not just to have our own experiences, but we're here to help awaken other light workers. People are on the fence, they don't understand, or we're indoctrinated into a religion and so on and so forth. So, with the age of Aquarius and Pluto in Aquarius, my God, this is just going to intensify the energy even more as it increases in frequency. The good news is, Michelle, beginning the second half of 2025 and especially 2026, these outer planets will be making favorable alignments to Pluto in Aquarius, which means some good energy, good news, some, things that are going to be surprising but beneficial. So we got that kind of energy coming in. It's not always doom and gloom. There is positive energy coming in from Pluto in Aquarius,
Mm.
especially when you have other planets assisting you. So we're just I've said this for a while now. We have to get through the next 5 or 6 months because it's going to be a little rough and bumpy.
Yeah.
And Pluto is going to play a major role, especially right now as we're speaking. Mars is slowing down to go retrograde, and it's opposing Pluto in Aquarius. These are the two symbols that represent conflict, irritation, frustration, inner turmoil. So these higher realms of consciousness see all of this, and they're just trying to protect, or I don't want to say protect, but maybe give awareness to those that are awake, that understand what's happening, to help guide them, give them more support like we do. We encourage people and we counsel people and give advice. We're helping them to see the world in a different way, and get them through a rough patch. That's what they're doing too, I think.
It's interesting that you talk about it like that, them protecting us, because that's exactly how they teach me that you and I and others like us are nodes in a matrix of light.
Hmm.
And I often see the ships traveling over me. So if I'm driving my car or I'm visiting a new location, the ship goes with me. And as we're speaking now, I can see you have one over where you're based. And so I totally agree that the Galactic Federation, they know the people that have got some sort of destined work to do, like you said,
Hmm.
light workers, and so they do, in my opinion, from what I've seen of my own experience, they do travel with those key people to keep us protected. But when
Hmm.
you say about Pluto going into Aquarius, what is the significance of the Pluto part? Because obviously we know now what Aquarius does, it's rebellious. So what's the significance of it having Pluto going into it? What does that do?
Well, Pluto is the symbol in astrology of death and rebirth, regeneration, destruction.
Okay.
It's associated with the old mythologies of the underworld, the darkness, the things that are hidden in the subconscious. It's a very psychological symbol of Pluto. So wherever Pluto is for whatever it is, 14 to 20 years, it will take that sign or that area of life and literally transmute it, change it. It's kind of like equating a butterfly, a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. It goes through this metamorphosis process, goes into this cocoon like state, and then eventually evolves as a butterfly.
Hmm.
That's the power of Pluto.
Right.
Pluto is, it's a deep transformation from the inside out. It doesn't just rebuild things, it literally destroys the old ways of doing things
Mm,
and creating new patterns. So, what have we just came out of Pluto in Capricorn, right? What has been exposed? The financial system, the power behind all the financial systems. Who are they? Who's pulling the strings? Now, to you and I, we could clearly see that, but to the average person, they are feeling it in their wallet. They are
mm,
seeing that the banks control everything and the families behind the banks that have been controlling everything. So that is Pluto in in Capricorn. Capricorn is about structure. It's about governments. Mr. T has come in and has been exposing the corruption. And now we're going to see it even more with the new administration.
mm.
So you see the power of Pluto at work. It's
Yeah.
digging deep. It's like pulling out the root of the corruption or whatever it is, and it's exposing it to you. So look here, you see how this is? You see how this works?
Yeah.
And then it rips it out and then begins to create something new. And that's exactly what's going to happen in society, having to do with the financial system, technology, innovation, people's behavior, new governmental structures. We might not even have normal governmental structures anymore. And I could see that coming in years to go ahead. So you could see how Pluto is working its magic in Capricorn and now into Aquarius. Aquarius, Pluto in Aquarius is going to show humanity, you know, how humanity works, how collectively we're all connected. We're basically all the same, just different versions of ourselves, how we see the world, and it's going to continue to crumble certain belief systems and ideologies that we have. That's all coming. And we see the beginning stages of it. Look at this last election in the United States, at how many people went out and voted, and how people are just so aware that, oh my God, there's so much corruption, and we need to make a difference. So we collectively came together to make a difference, and it's been happening around the world as well, not just in the United States. You see, so there's a collective awakening with the Pluto and Aquarius, but Pluto is leading the way in its transforming, society. Make
Yes.
sense?
What I've been noticing, Joe, is I watch some astrologers on YouTube from time to time, just like when I'm doing chores around the house, have it sort of playing in the background. And what I've been noticing a lot is they bring out the Tower card a lot recently, particularly since I would say Easter of this year, the spring of this year. It's like all the signs, all the collective readings, they seem to have tower after tower after tower. And so something I was thinking that that would probably reflect is that people are actually just having these realizations, which I think is this Pluto effect, where they suddenly just get up one day and what they thought they believed in or they felt or what their perspective had been like suddenly shifts, and they're like looking at everything from a completely different viewpoint, and that kind of feels like the tower in the tarot cards might
Hmm.
be a reflection of this Pluto effect.
Absolutely. The tower in the cards also represents Mars, and
Right.
Mars is being heavily influenced right now. But matter of fact, before I got on this morning, I was looking at some of the energy coming in the next couple of months, and I pulled a couple of cards, and guess what was in there? The Death
Oh,
card,
oh, the dead.
the
Right.
Death card, which is associated with Pluto, and the Tower card
Oh,
in the
right.
same reading. And
Yeah.
what does that symbolically represent? A transformation. And the tower is things falling apart, power structures falling apart, things suddenly changing. And
Mm,
that's what we're going to get into just in the next month and a half or so. We
mm.
are going to see surprise after surprise. The astrology for December is off the charts. I did a video about a week ago calling the we've entered the chaotic timeline. And so it's all influenced by the death card, Pluto,
Yeah.
and Mars, the tower card. And in astrology, they're both being very active right now. So, Michelle, the one thing that I've learned over the years, whatever this matrix is, this simulation, this energy, it reflects it in many different ways. It reflects it through the numerology, it
Mm.
reflects it through the astrology, the tarot cards, our intuition, psychic ability, naturally, the dreams, uh, seeing things. It doesn't matter because it just keeps repeating the same cycle, the same pattern. It's showing you something, but it's the observer, you and I, that are asking the question in the right way that it
Mm.
begins to show us that. You
Yeah.
see? So it's it's saying, and believe me, over the months, I've tuned into it as well, and it just keeps saying transformation. You're in a transformation. Society's in a transformation, and do the best you can because the energy is going to continue to transform. So the Tower card represents things falling apart.
Mm.
Things, I don't want to say chaos, but it's symbolic of chaos, and it's sudden and fast. Okay, so
So,
that's what's
um,
happening.
another thing I've been witnessing, Joe, because obviously I work with different people like you do. I don't know if you've
Mhm.
seen this pattern. The men this year are being hit quite hard in terms of these realizations, these
Hmm.
shake-ups. Um,
Right.
things are falling away. You know, perhaps they had a relationship that's just suddenly falling apart, and it
Hmm.
was fine. It just suddenly falls apart, or their business just suddenly fall. There's all these sudden things just seem to be occurring from
Hmm.
nowhere. And it seems to be happening more to the men than the women. I feel like the women have already had that process maybe the year before or a bit before, and now the divine masculine, if you like, is kind of catching up. I don't know if that's reflected in anything that's happening astrologically, or is that might just be a different scenario. But have you noticed anything like that in the astrology that would influence the men more than the women?
Well, once again, when we look at Mars, Mars is the male energy. And
Right,
so, Mars has been in Leo. It was in
right.
Cancer prior to that. Mars was in a weakened state in Cancer. But Pluto also influencing the male psyche. But what you're describing is, again, we in this last 120 years have based our entire belief system on money, okay? That we need to make money to feed ourselves, to exchange value, to create. And of course, we've been subconsciously brainwashed into wanting to buy more things and more shiny things and buy bigger and better, especially here in the United States. And so technology has been slowly introduced. And so the male consciousness, I would say at least the last 40 years or so, okay, maybe a little earlier, but it's always been about uh, having more
Hmm.
and more money and chasing titles and chasing this and chasing that. And this energy is really breaking through all of that in the male psyche. It is literally trying to say, hey, you're not your things. You're not your title. You're not your testosterone. You need to break through all of that and start realizing who you really are. And this is why I've been saying this for years, that you're a spiritual energy in a physical suit, whether it's male or female, it doesn't matter. It's the energy behind it. When you do that, you cut through all of that nonsense that we were conditioned to believe. And so, again, this is the Great Awakening, as I've called it, and many others have called it for years. I knew this since 2008 or so when I started getting those strong visions that we were going to change society. So, the male energy, there's several reasons why the male energy or outlook is changing. But primarily it's because we have been conditioned to believe certain things. And when things change in society, the males tend to want to retreat and they want to hold on to things and they want to insulate themselves and protect themselves as if like, a storm is coming. Let's say, a man is in the wild by himself. Let's just say hypothetically. What does he do? He hunts for food, he gathers wood, he makes sure he has shelter. It's the same energy right now in the male psyche. We're sort of protecting our core in the best way we know how. But because of the energies, it's breaking through all these barriers. You don't need all of that. You don't need all of that money. You don't need all of this. Remember who you are. Remember how this world works, all of that stuff. And so that's why we're seeing males either being more macho in order to be aggressive and create or recreate. Those of us that are in tune are understanding our role in society. It is as a protector, and it is as a creator. There's a reason why, both male and female energy exists and exists throughout humanity and throughout the world. There's always the positive and negative polarities of the energy, expressing itself. So men are losing their role or understanding, in societies because everything is changing and they don't understand what their new role is going to be.
Mm.
And they'll quickly figure it out. We'll all quickly figure it out. Okay. And this is what's also causing the, this craziness with the different genders and this nonsense. But again, and I could explain this one away too. These poor kids that are, don't believe that they're male or female because their energy, the influence that they're coming in on is very confusing. They're heavily being influenced by Aquarius energy and Neptune energy, which is confusing in itself. Neptune is about delusion, fantasy, spirituality, and Aquarius is, I'm not going to think the same way. So they're heavily being influenced by that. And
Yeah.
so when they say I'm this gender or that gender, they're just expressing the energy that they think they feel. They're not looking at the physical form, they're looking at the spiritual form, the energy of the spirit. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, because I don't want to pass any judgment, but they are expressing the energy, the polarity that we all have. We all have male energy and female energy, if our hormones are balanced.
Yes.
And so and especially in the age and the Pluto and Aquarius, very typical of people not identifying themselves anymore with the physical reality, and that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Okay, so the male role, those of us that understand it, and the older generations understand it because we still had that heavy influence of the family. You create a family, you have children, you protect, you nurture, all of that stuff that comes natural. But these newer generations don't have that at all, Michelle. They
No.
don't want to work, or they can't find work. They're more technologically advanced, and they don't come from a normal family anymore. What I mean, normal or traditional family, male and
Yeah.
female. And
Yes.
so they're being confused about what their roles are supposed to be. And
Yes.
one more thing I have to throw in there. Let's not forget that the genetic manipulation that's been taking place for the last 100 years or so to slow the birth rate down, which has been affecting males' testosterone and females' reproductive organs, you
Yes.
know, and that is obvious. That is a big one. So something or someone is doing all that, to the animals we ingest and the crops and the plants and everything. So
Yeah.
it's like they're preparing us for a new age where we're going to be looking at the world in a different way somehow, and that our roles are going to appear different in the future. Not that saying that that we're all going to be like transgender or something like that, but it's going to appear different. Society will appear different, in some way. But I mean, let's face it, the male energy, because of the testosterone that we have, is meant to be more physical, heavy lifting, chopping down trees and whatnot, all that stuff. Not that women can't do it, but that's the reason for it, So whoever designed these physical suits, whatever consciousness put this together, highly ingenious. They knew exactly what they were doing to the deepest levels. And now it's all being revealed to us, on some level.
So,
So,
Joe, with all this change and transformation and towers and death cards, what
mhm.
do you think it's going to look like by the time we get to January, which is the inauguration date? Because I've got a feeling that maybe that whole structure might be gone by then. We might be already moving into something called maybe devolution of government governance. And
Hmm.
so that whole concept of inauguration might now be outdated. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. According to my, estimation and what I've, you know, understood that the United States corporation has been bankrupt since 2013, I believe. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And so what we're witnessing right now, as many of us have been saying, we're watching a show and it's being orchestrated by at the highest level by military intelligence and maybe beyond them, extraterrestrials of some kind. I don't know for sure. I've not been in contact with any of them, but we are watching we are watching a system transform from this corporate mindset that's been heavily controlled into something that is going to be controlled in a different way through technology. And that's why Mr. Musk is in the picture. This is why, Mr. T has been chosen. All of these people are being set in place.
Mm.
2025, Michelle, beginning at the beginning of 2025 with an inauguration, um, you know, we may not have one because technically Mr. T never left
Exactly.
because he has been part of the military mindset. And the military has been running the show. And I'm talking about the intelligence, the high level white hat military intelligence. Uh, and so we've really not had an official government in my view here, from what I gather. So even if we don't have an inauguration, it doesn't really matter.
Mm.
Military still in charge, still running the show. Mr. T is still the commander in chief, from what I gather. He's still a president because he was technically a president. So what I'm seeing astrologically beginning in December, December is very chaotic. And matter of fact, the energy this morning from the tarot reading with the astrology shows the beginning of December is great. Everything looks optimistic. We have a new moon coming in Sagittarius. We're all happy go lucky. We're excited, whatever. But by the end of December, it's a totally
Wow.
different ball game. It is
What's
change coming out of nowhere. It's, moves being made that are strange.
right?
Maybe even some military nonsense going on, that is going may interrupt things to this inauguration date on January the 20th. And I've said this, I think I've touched upon it in my chaotic video, timeline video, is that by the end of, December through the first week of January, the energy is off the charts. Okay. It's off the charts. Mars and that Pluto are at odds with each other.
Yeah.
We've got the new moon in Capricorn that comes in, which is about government and structures and power. So we may see a lot of friction as we go into the end of the year, especially around the 24th, December 24th. Jupiter and Saturn are squaring each other and going all the way into the first week of January. That seems to be the most chaotic energy.
Wow.
So it's a wild card, in terms of, an event that occurs or an announcement is made or something that surprises the hell out of everyone. And so we go from this happy go lucky beginning of the month to the end of the month going, what the frick is going on here? Okay.
Wow. Oh,
That's what I'm seeing.
it sounds incredible. I don't know if I want to sleep, just go to sleep then on the 24th of December and not wake
Yeah.
up until
Yeah. Well,
not wake up
that
till mid-Jan. We all
that's fine.
hibernate.
Yeah. But, again, this is, as we know, the deep state or the dark hats are basically losing power and control. And their last weapon is the war and conflict. Now, people are not buying into, pitting people against each other because they love doing that. But war is the only thing they have left.
Hmm.
And it really stems from, the people they still control from in the military industrial complex. And of course, overseas, the Middle East, London, the Vatican, all of these places still have a little bit of power left, but this is the last steps before they lose it completely, and so that's what I'm seeing. And
Yeah.
so what we're witnessing in the next 6 months is the deep state around the world, these powerful or used to be powerful people or beings, are going to give it their last shot to try and cause as much chaos as possible, to cause as much turmoil in
Mm,
humanity as much as possible.
mm.
But it's going to be tricky. I'm gonna say it's going to be tricky as we go up to the inauguration day. And what I did see though is either protests or a bit of chaos that's going to occur in Washington or around some of the major cities around Washington. And this is why they're putting up fences and they're doing all kinds of stuff in Washington right now. They're preparing for the possibility of, major protests.
Yeah.
The protest thing is still not out of the equation yet, you know, especially with this inauguration. So
Mm.
we may see some of that coming in. I would say the beginning of the year, because it's the most tumultuous on January the 2nd. Mars opposes Pluto exactly. And so the energy is very volatile. So we may see announcements about military intervention. We may see, some protests or riots taking place outside Washington or something along those lines. And we'll see. But whatever it is, the deep state in Washington is preparing themselves to make some moves to try and block as much as they can. But they really don't have any. What I got intuitively is they don't have any power anymore. They've lost a lot of their power.
Mm.
Whoever's behind them has taken away a lot of their influence and power. And so they are really grasping at straws, is what I'm picking up. Did you get the same thing?
Yes, I got that. Well, for a little while, we've been sort of people like you and me. I've had this feeling that there hasn't actually been a government in place like is shown to the people. There's obviously some military operation going on in the
Mm-hmm.
background.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what I'm feeling might happen towards, like you said, during this time of the end of December, early January, is maybe that military law might be more visible to the masses. Because I think
Mm-hmm.
personally, we've been under military law worldwide for
Right.
some time.
Right.
Because of the
Right.
reason that you were saying that, a lot of these corporations were bankrupt some time ago. And so I think the military law has been what's been actually operating a lot of countries, if not all of them. And
Mm-hmm.
the governments that we see are just to make everything look like business as usual to
Right.
the masses while they sort out this technology that's going to run the devolution.
Right.
And once that technology is ready, then they can start peeling away these layers that the
Mm-hmm.
masses see.
Mm-hmm.
But another thing that came up in my last video, my inauguration video, which I put out 2 days ago, was that an interesting twist might be that somebody like Ron DeSantis or General Flynn might next year take a lead role. So President Trump will always be commander in chief.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we're going to have a title like president anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But they have been saying to me that we might have titles like ambassador,
Mm-hmm.
like an ambassador of peace or an
Mm-hmm.
ambassador of health, or something like
Right.
Robert Kennedy is doing right now, where he's taking the lead with the health narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know. I don't know if you've actually had time to look, Joe, or if you just know from your own sort of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that somebody like Ron DeSantis or Michael Flynn might have one of these sort of ambassadorial roles? Or what?
Yes, yes, but I don't think it's going to be in the public. You see, a lot of what I was tuning into just this morning before we got on is there's a lot of posturing taking place right now behind the scenes.
Right.
And the generals have been in control of all this.
Yeah.
There's been many generals, even retired ones, have been heavily influencing what's going on. So General Flynn, okay, I think his role is going to be not ambassador, but he'll play a major role because he still is in the new administration. Okay. because he has access to intelligence, the military intelligence, which is taking
Mm,
place. And he'll work hand in hand with Elon Musk and some of these other agencies. The Right now, what we're seeing is the devolution process, where we have to take down these agencies and these organizations and the bureaucracy that has been in control. It's not been the politicians; it's been the bureaucracy, and that's what is has to come down. And Flynn and DeSantis will do his job too, but I think DeSantis is going to play another role somewhere down the line. It may not be this year, where he gets assigned to a new role, because Florida is such a safe state, for the Republicans. So I think they're going to be working from behind the scenes. I don't think they'll be officially, put in places of power until the devolution process takes place, until we get rid of some of these agencies and these bureaucrats. And that is what I'm seeing in 2025, a
mm.
complete overhaul of these institutions and these organizations. After that, these guys may be assigned to an ambassadorship or a role of leadership. Like, for instance, I could see Flynn in some sort of military intelligence placement that's official, and then DeSantis in another position that's more official. But it's not going to happen, at the beginning of the year. I think it'll either happen at the end of the year or at the beginning of 2026. Does that make sense?
It does, because one of the key dates that I keep getting for all of this sort of coming to fruition, if you like, where the masses can really see what's happening, is this date that you keep repeating, 26 stroke 27. And that kept coming out for me for some time. And people were always saying, oh, she's just pushing the timeline and she keeps pushing it back. But it's always been, when they've said to me that it's going to take till 26 stroke 27 for it to be seen in its full vision to the masses. Because these things take time to set up, don't they, Joe?
Oh, tremendous time. But I'll give you an example. Okay. I'll put this together on my 2025 video. Let's look at the numerology real quickly, because that's another way of looking at things.
Mm,
Look at the year of 2025. It
mm,
is a 9 year. What
and
does nine mean in numerology? Endings,
uh,
completions, learning. Okay. It's about basically dismantling or a cycle coming to an end. So the entire year of 2025 is going to be about things coming apart, breaking down, learning from the mistakes, starting over again. Now, when we get into 2026, that is a 1 year, that is a new beginning.
beginnings. Yeah,
Beginnings.
yeah.
So, yes, you're absolutely right on track with the energy.
So what's
So
2000? What's a two then? What does two
the
become?
two, the two is sort of stepping back. It's more of a knowing. It's more of a psychic realm. It's more technology oriented. So we're
Yeah,
going to see a lot of technological advances in a 2 year, which is 2027.
which
You
makes
see,
perfect sense because we have to go through the nine to end everything that we currently have. Then we have the number one,
new, new.
2026, which is the starting out. And
Mhm.
then by the time we get to number two, well, hopefully we can start to see the actual benefits of what's been put into place.
Exactly. But 2027 is also high vibration. It's an 11. It's
Yeah,
not necessarily a two, it's an 11, which is a much higher vibration than
yeah.
just a two. So
Oh,
we're going to see tremendous changes in 2027. I think more spiritual technology, understanding of why we went through this whole process, you know. But right now, we're just entering, as I've said in my other videos, we're entering the abyss. We're entering that deep darkness of the unknown right now, especially in the next 6 months. And so we have to, those of us that are aware, and I'm sure you're seeing it as well, more people are not feeding into any fears, which I really appreciate. We need that. We don't want the low vibration, but unfortunately, because of the energies, it's forcing us to sit still. But at the same time, there's an evolution taking place.
yeah.
And so these, these people behind the scenes, the military intelligence, The AI knows it as well, that this is something that has to happen in order to move to the next level of awareness. These old systems have to be removed. So that's what
Well,
we're witnessing right
it's
now.
it's going to be a roller coaster still by the sounds of it, but I'm actually looking forward to a lot of what we've been talking about today. Not because
Oh,
there's
yeah.
a lot of upheaval, but because at least now we can start to see things happening. Like since Trump's been elected, in the what is it, only 3 weeks ago, we've had so many things coming forward, like the Department of Government Efficiency, the people that they're now putting into the new transitional government. I
Hmm.
mean, it's just we can now, I can actually see now that things are moving forward after a period of what felt like forever, where
Yeah.
nothing was moving and it was getting I was starting to feel quite despondent, were we ever going to see any change? And now it sounds like, Joe, we're going to see so much change, we won't be able to like keep up with it.
Yeah.
Um, but that's been a lot of information that's very
Hmm.
encouraging today. I know it's going to be a roller coaster, but at least it's going to be moving forward. Is there anything else you wanted to finish off with before we go today?
Just that, we are definitely in the next month and a half. The energy is going to be very thick and heavy, folks. So just okay, and don't take it personally. Oh, poor me. I know my life. There's none of that. Stay away from that nonsense because you're feeling the heavy energy, especially with Mercury and Mars being retrograde and Mars opposing Pluto. It's going
Yeah.
to transform you psychologically. So
Mm.
as we go into the new year, you have to be optimistic, okay? Because if you're awake and aware of what's going on, and I mean deep, and I know your listeners and my listeners kind of have a really good idea of what's going on, you'll be fine. You'll have to just adjust and adapt, to the new ways of doing things. But be vigilant. Pay attention to the little details. Stay away from the mainstream media. I mean, that's pretty much dead anyway. But stay optimistic. I promise you, the second half of 2025, the energy really starts to get better. It improves. So we have 6 months of change, tremendous amounts of change that's coming in. And then after that, things really start to improve. That's what I'm seeing.
Mm.
So again, it's like a storm coming in. It causes destruction, it changes things, and then all of a sudden you go back to rebuilding, you go back to your life, you see things a different way, and you adapt to the new ways of doing things. That's what's going to happen
Yeah.
just in the next
I
couple of
feel
months.
I feel that I feel that as well, that there's going to be an awful lot of change coming that's going to be visible, because actually,
Yes.
from my point of view and probably from your point of view, there's actually been a lot of change going on already, but because we
Hmm.
could never show the people,
Right.
because it's been in the background, it was difficult to explain to some people that
Hmm.
things were actually happening. But now I think we're going to visibly, I don't think anyone's going to be able to say they don't know that there's change going on.
Right.
So
Right.
that's a good thing. It's been lovely
Exactly.
to speak to you, Joe. I always enjoy our chats.
Well,
And
thank you, Michelle.
yeah, and hopefully we'll come back together again around sort of January time, because I know you're very excited to tell us all about the things that you've got that you can see
Hmm.
coming up around the early parts of 25, and you've got more
Hmm.
details about that. So we're going to save that for our next
Wonderful.
thing. Um,
Okay.
and in the meantime, because I probably won't see you now before Christmas, I hope you have a lovely Christmas, whatever you're doing.
Thank
And,
you. You too.
we'll catch you next time, Joe. Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Thanks, Michelle.
take care,
Bye.
Joe.